Hello and welcome. What if you could create a brand new, beautifully illustrated, personalized storybook for your children in less than 60 seconds, no matter the age group, and completely for free? It sounds amazing, right? Well, with a new feature in Google Gemini, you now actually can. But the big question for us as educators isn't just if we can, it's how we do it. How do we make it meaningful, creative, and most importantly, how do we use it in a way that is completely safe for our children? Now, if you're new here, a very warm welcome. I'm Jody, and this is Early Education in the Age of AI. And my goal on this channel and podcast is to give you practical, ethical, and simple strategies to use AI as your helpful education assistant so you can cut down on paperwork and get back to the important bit, the play-based learning. Today I'm going to walk you through that exciting new Storybook feature that I mentioned. When I first saw it, my educator brain was buzzing with the possibilities, and I bet that yours is going to be too. But my very next thought was about our professional responsibility, especially with all the child safety regulations and amendments happening. And that's exactly why in this episode, we're going on an adventure together, and by the end of our time, you will have a complete book and you'll know how to confidently use this new AI feature. First, we'll establish our new golden rule for using any generative image tool with children. I talk about this all the time. Next, I'll share my 4-part formula for writing the perfect prompt to get the exact story you want every single time. Then it's the really fun part. We'll explore 5 creative and practical ways that you can use these AI storybooks in your service tomorrow, from helpful social emotional stories for toddlers right through to co-authoring adventure tales with outside school hours care children. And finally, I'm going to show you exactly how to save and share these wonderful creations with your children and also with their families. So if you're ready to add a fantastic new tool to your educator toolkit, let's go ahead and get started. Now, before we jump into our creative ideas, let's do a quick step-by-step just to make sure everyone can find and open this tool, especially if you've only used ChatGPT or similar tools up until now. You might not even have met Google Gemini yet. Think of Gemini as Google's version of an AI chat assistant. I'm really liking using it, and the Storybook feature is free to use. First things first, how do you find it? It's really simple, and I will leave a link below for you, but you just open your web browser and go to gemini.google.com. And once you're there and logged in with your Google account, you'll see a little chat interface. Now, the Storybook feature is what's called a gem, and you might be prompted to turn on access first if you haven't used Gemini before. So just click on Explore Gems from your sidebar, and then you'll see a little card on the screen. You can just click on that and it will open the chat for you, ready to enter your prompt. Before you create, though, there's just one really important thing we need to touch on first before you get in there and type a single word, and that is our professional responsibility when it comes to digital safety. I often mention it because it's a starting point that's non-negotiable when you're using any generative AI tool, especially when we're working with children. We never ever want to upload photos where a child's face or any other identifiable features are visible. And I want to be really clear about the why behind this, because it connects directly to our professional responsibilities as educators. We are the guardians of a child's digital identity. So we have a profound duty of care to ensure their privacy is protected, and that starts with not creating a digital footprint that they haven't consented to and cannot control in the future. Second, children are not able to give informed consent for their image to be uploaded to a platform. So potentially it can be used to train an AI model and stored on servers around the world. And finally, this practice aligns perfectly with the policies that most of our services already have in place around photo permissions and online safety. And this is simply an extension of that existing best practice into this new technological space. Now, I don't want you to see it as a limitation though. In fact, I personally see it as a creative challenge because it pushes us to find even more imaginative and collaborative ways to use this tool, which is exactly what we're going to explore today. Instead of using photos of children, we're going to be using the art from children. I'll show you how to do that because it's so much more meaningful and it's quite fun to do, and I think the children will love doing it with you. Now that we have our safety first approach in place, let's get into the really fun part: how to become the author and director of your own AI generated storybooks. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you'll know I've talked about the art of talking to your AI, or prompting, we call it. I've talked about that before many times. I just want to remind you that the quality of what you get out of an AI is directly related to the quality of the instructions that you're going to put in. I'm getting really specific with the prompt examples in this episode because for this project, we're not just writing a general prompt, we're essentially becoming authors, giving our AI co-creator a useful, detailed, creative brief to help us bring a brand new story to life. I want you to imagine you're commissioning a human illustrator and a writer. So if you just said, I need a story about a bird, you could get anything from a cartoon chicken to a photorealistic eagle. It would be a complete guess because you're not giving it any instructions. So you can see here, that's exactly what I've done in this. If you're watching the video, you can see it. So I've put that prompt in, and what we got back was this little book here. I'll show you how we did it. So I've gone to Storybook here, and then I've just put in my prompt, write a story about the bird. Now it's come back, it's thought for a minute, and this is the story that it's given us. And I think you'll agree, it's a lovely story. In a cozy nest high up in an old oak tree lived a little bird named Pip. All his brothers and sisters had flown away, but Pip was too scared to leave the nest. Continues, the world is so big and I am so small, he chirped to his mama. What if I fall? So for those listening, I'm just showing a little booklet it creates for us on the screen. I encourage you to come and try and watch the video if you can on my new YouTube channel, because I want to be able to show you these things as well. So it's just a little bird in a nest. So we've got our character, but we haven't specified what the bird is or what our goal for the story is. So if we were to go to this next example where we described, say, a little magpie with a funny tuft of feathers on his head who's feeling a bit nervous about trying a wobbly worm for the first time, well, now we're going to get a character with personality and a lot more heart. So to make this easier, I use a simple 4-part formula that I designed specifically while I was testing out creating my own storybooks, and it meets an educational outcome. So we want to put more into our description because we're leaning towards that learning outcome or that educational goal that we're trying to achieve. And so I've created just a little step-by-step. I love my little processes, so you've got something to follow. And that's helped me to create this Milo the Magpie's Wiggly Worry, a different storybook. So what's our prompt? First is the character. Who is the story about? Give them a name and one main personality trait. So for example, you might say a shy koala named Kevin. Second is the setting and the goal. So where are they? What do they want or need to do? So you might say something like, Kevin, who lives in a busy eucalyptus tree and wants to learn how to climb down by himself. And third, this is where your educator magic really comes in, is the purpose or the lesson. So we really want to get that educational goal or theme in there. So what is the why behind the story? Why are we actually wanting to create this story? What social skill or learning concept are you intentionally exploring here? For example, the story could gently teach about, this is the prompt that you're giving, you would want to say something like, teach about bravery and trying new things. And the fourth thing is the tone and the details. And this is really important as well. And you can be quite specific here because you're going to direct it. Is it funny? Do you want it to be a funny story, a reassuring story? Who is it for? For instance, you might say something like, use simple, repetitive language suitable for 3-year-olds with a warm, reassuring tone. So you can obviously modify that for toddlers if you wanted something simpler and more rhyming action or something like that. Let's see this in action. A before prompt might be that one that we put in. I said before, write a story about a bird, and the result was okay. I'll just go back to the result here. It's still a story. It's great. But when we use the 4-part formula, then we can see that we start to get more detail. So I'm just sharing some images of that as well now. And now we've got a story about little Milo the magpie. It's Australian themed, and he's scared of worms. He sees all his friends enjoying them for lunch, and the story should be funny and lighthearted and help show that it's okay to try new food. So we've told the AI that our goal is that we want to help show the child that it's okay to try some new food. So now we've ended up with this little booklet here, Milo the Magpie's Wiggly Worry. And you will see the difference. See, now we can see that it is a magpie, and you still get a lovely little story with that simple prompt I first used. But if you're watching on YouTube, you can see on the screen that this second prompt that I put in here has given us a story about an Australian magpie, and it's personalised more to our goal around showing it's okay to try new food. And in Milo's case, it's actually about trying worms, which makes sense. All we did differently was give the AI the ingredients it needs to create something with real purpose and feeling. So it's giving us, Milo was a happy young magpie. He loved to sing loud songs from the top of the tallest gum tree and play chasey with the leaves. But Milo had a secret, a wiggly squiggly secret. And then I turned the page. It was lunchtime. Milo's friends Pip and Rocky were pecking at the soft ground. Yum, chirped Pip, pulling up a long pink worm. Delicious, warbled Rocky, gobbling one down. Now, obviously, I'm not going to read through the whole book, but those watching can see that it's definitely a detailed story, and our little characters are staying consistent all the way through, which is another great thing with the Gemini storybooks as well. Now, here's a fantastic tip. For when you have a very specific story in your mind though, and you want even more control over the vocabulary and the pacing. So you can go to another AI tool like Claude. I like to use Claude for anything creatively writing because I just feel it's a better option. And you can also use Gemini, or you can use ChatGPT, whatever works for you. And you just go into a separate chat and ask it to act as your script writer first. So you're going to ask it to write the text for the story page by page. And then you can copy the script and use it in the Storybook Creator back in Gemini, which then acts as your illustrator and puts it all together for you. And this gives you more control, and your stories are going to be more detailed and more in touch with what you are aiming for. So here's a couple of prompts that you could use to generate a script like this in Claude. So I'm showing a few examples on the screen, but for those of you listening, Here's a detailed one first where you actually map out the whole story. So you don't have to have the exact wording, but if you enjoy writing or you want to really include some details about specific children, you might like to create these prompts yourself. So I've said, act as a children's author, write a short 5-page script for a picture book for 4-year-olds about a shy koala named Kevin who learns to be brave. And then I've listed page 1, introduce Kevin in his tree, feeling lonely. Page 2, I've said a friendly kookaburra named Katie lands nearby and says hello. Kevin hides. Page 3, Kevin takes a deep breath and peeks out. So you can see I'm not going into great detail, but I'm just giving it the outline, the structure. Page 4, he whispers hello back. And page 5, they smile, showing the start of a new friendship. So keep the language simple and the tone gentle. And when I put that one in, I'm just showing on the screen now, I got something back that was Kevin the Shy Koala. So it was basically gave me a nice picture book script. Page 1, high up in the tall eucalyptus tree lived a little koala named Kevin. So it's gone through, for those of you listening, it's just gone through page 1, page 2, exactly incorporated the things that I wanted in there. So Claude just says, I've written a gentle picture book script about Kevin, the shy koala, learning to be brave and make his first friend. And then if I come back over here, I can show you this is what we got. So we've now got a book that says Brave Little Kevin, and I'll flick through. So now you can see this one has given me, because I actually asked for it to be a very simple story. I adjusted the prompt and said I wanted it for a 2-year-old toddler, mainly picture based. And so now I have one that just is really basic. It's a lovely pictures of the koala, but it says this is Kevin the koala. Kevin lives high up in a big gum tree. Down, down, down. Kevin wants to come down. So it's just that basic rhythm that toddlers really like in a story, and the repetition. The tree is so big, 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 big. You can do it, chirps a friend. Kevin wiggles his toes. Wiggle, wiggle. Down, down, down. One little step. Wiggle, wiggle, down, down, down. So you can see that repetition there. Kevin is down. Hooray for Kevin. Brave little Kevin is how it finishes off. So a little story for you there. But the idea of that is just to show you that you can tweak from one prompt to the other. So you can have a more detailed one for the 4-year-old, or you can write something like, I want a simple story for a 2-year-old toddler that's mainly picture based, and then that's what you will get back. Okay, you can also use a shorter prompt where you give the AI a bit more creative freedom. Write a 5-page picture book about a wombat who gets frustrated when his block tower falls down. The story needs to include a simple calming strategy like taking 3 deep breaths, and should end with him happily building a new tower. So you can then take the page-by-page script that the AI gives you, in this case Claude, and use that as your detailed prompt in the Storybook creator to get exactly the story that you wanted. So when I put this into Claude, the example it gave me back here, so all Claude has told me is I've created a picture book script about Walter the Wombat who learns to manage frustration when his block tower falls down. The story follows the 5-page structure you requested and includes several elements perfect for preschoolers. And then it lists a whole lot of key features, which is great as well. And you can see here what it's given me. If I click on, I'll read out for those listening. Walter's Tower, a picture book script for preschoolers. It's got simple age-appropriate language. Walter the Wombat loved to build with blocks. Walter would sit on his soft rug. So all I'm going to do is copy that script that's given to me. You can press the little copy button up the top. Most of them have, AI tools have a copy button. Otherwise, I tend to just right click and copy and then paste it back into your Gemini tools. So say we've copied that. And then we're going to come over to Walter's Tower one, and I've just simply pasted that prompt into the chat box here like that. as you can see, and then I would just click on the little submit arrow, and then we can go through and see Walter. It'll think for a minute and then it will come back and it will more closely align. It's a much more detailed story, this one. Walter the Wombat loved to build with blocks. He had red blocks, blue blocks, yellow blocks and green blocks every morning. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it has given us something that we asked for, because it says he was so proud of his beautiful tower. It was almost as tall as he was. He reached for one more yellow block to put on the very top, but as he stretched up high, his paw bumped the tower. Crash! All the blocks tumbled down and scattered across the floor. And then it goes through the story. We can see a picture of a very grumpy looking little wombat, very similar to a 2-year-old being frustrated, and his face turned red, his little paws made tight fists. No, 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 Walter shouted, my tower was perfect. So it goes through like that all the way through to the end, and it's a lot more detailed. And the facial expressions, you have to come and watch it on video, because the facial expressions are just beautiful. They really capture it. They bring mum into the picture, into the equation. I do want to say that please be aware, something I missed when I was prompting, I didn't say that I wanted it in Australian or UK English and spelling. So there are some words like colourful here that has been spelt with the American spelling. So you must always read. And if that's something that bothers you when you're editing, we have to redo it. It won't let you just redo some pages, but you could always copy that text if you wanted to, put it in a document and change it as you need to. But come and have a look. It's a lovely little storybook. The whole process of providing these clear, detailed instructions is a skill that translates across all AI tools. And it's the exact same approach that our members take inside the AI Empowered Educators membership when they're chatting, say, with assistants like Ellie Elf or Dottie Documentation. And what I always say is the more context and detail that you provide, the more personalized and helpful the support is that you're going to receive in return. So you won't need to do as much back and forth conversing and re-asking questions. Because I took a little extra time to create the script and storyline first, I ended up with a much more unique and detailed story that's more aligned with the initial educational goal that I had. We've seen examples now, or I've told you examples about our little magpie. We've seen one in the difference between just asking for a bird story compared to asking for one with little Milo the magpie. I've explained how you can go to different AI tools, ask it to write the script for you first to speed up the process, but also make it a bit more detailed as well. If you've got some ideas, why not use those? Let's move on to the fun part now, because we've set our safety rule. We've explored a few different ways to use prompting, and now I want to break down 5 practical and creative ways that you can use this tool in reality. And first up is a use case that I was really excited to try for myself, and have played with it a few times in different prompting for different age groups, and I call it the social emotional story weaver. So we all know the power of a good social story for different things that happen for children, and they can really help you out. Make sure you listen to my other episode where I talked about creating those visual supports with AI. But the real magic happens when these sort of stories speak directly to a specific challenge that your children might be facing right here, right now. So, how effective do you think it would be to be able to quickly create a custom, beautifully illustrated story in minutes that does exactly that for you? So let's walk through this step by step. Step 1 actually happens away from the computer. So it starts with your professional observation. So the normal child observations that you do. What are you noticing in the learning environment? Let's take a simple example. Say that you've noticed a few of the toddlers are finding it really tricky to share the new wooden cars this week. So step 2 is turning that observation now our 4-part prompt. Remember the prompt we went through earlier? We'll build it together. So for our character, let's pick a gentle, relatable Australian animal. How about a little possum named Pip? Just to keep it simple. For the setting and goal, he's in the playroom and his goal is to navigate the challenge of sharing the cars. So for our purpose or lesson, the key skill we want to model is using gentle language. Let's focus on the phrase, "my turn soon," or something similar to that. And for the tone and details, we need just simple language for toddlers, a really reassuring feel, and a positive resolution where the friends play together happily. So step 3 is bringing it all together and generating that story. I've added this exact prompt into the chat box inside my Gemini AI assistant, which is create a story for toddlers about a little possum named Pip who finds it tricky to share the wooden toy cars. The story should show Pip learning a simple phrase like "my turn soon" and end with Pip and a friend playing together happily. So I've put that in again to the Gemini chat box. I've just copied, put it in, and then hit go, and the AI begins by thinking, and then it's now created the illustrations and writing, because it does that page by page, and then it'll give you your result back. So it usually takes less than a minute, I've found, but sometimes it might take longer depending on your internet speed. But I'm looking at a lovely book now that says "my turn soon." We've got a picture of a little wombat, and we've also got little Pip, the very cute possum. It says things like, "Pip the possum loved his little wooden cars. He had a red one, a blue one, and a bright yellow one. Vroom, vroom," chirped Pip, rolling them all around the leafy floor. I noticed when I was doing this one, there's lovely little images of him clutching his cars and holding them to him, but we don't always get the consistency. So the cars that he's holding now are wooden, but they're not the red, blue, and green ones that we started off with. Another thing I noticed is that the emotions on the faces are really good, especially since they're animals, and the characters are quite consistent. But I did notice that later on in the story, suddenly the car, when they start talking about Pip slowly pushed the bright yellow car towards Wally, the wombat, that car is suddenly 3 times bigger than the other cars that we started out with. So it's not perfect. There will be inconsistencies, but children don't tend to care about these things. It's just us that notice them. But these are things, if they bother you, you might just need to put more in your prompt, like keeping the toys or the cars all the same size, or have some bigger, some smaller, whatever it is you want. And in every page here, we've got leaves on the floor, and it's obviously an inside playroom environment, but it is still adding those leaves. So if that's not something you wanted, then you'd have to go back and prompt again, and it will just think again and give you something back that's even better. The same as how we talk about all our other prompting. Sometimes we don't get the response that we want the first time, but we learn from that, we add more into our prompt, and we chat more effectively with the AI as well. So you can see how a simple personalized story like this that's read to a small group, or say an individual child even, can be really helpful and a responsive tool for helping navigate those big feelings and those social hurdles as well. Now I want you to take a moment, pause and reflect. What's one social skill or a common challenge that you're seeing in your room right now? Could be about being gentle with friends, trying new foods perhaps, or saying goodbye at drop-off. Just hold that idea and think about what you could create a story. And if you're ever stuck for a theme or want to dig deeper into the why behind the challenge, then this is where you can lean on other AI tools as well for support. You don't have to just stick with Gemini. For example, Inside my AI Empowered Educators membership, you could have a chat with Maisie, Mindful Inclusion. You could ask her for strategies to support the sharing in the toddler room, and she could help you brainstorm some more learning goals that you want to focus on for those children before you even write your story prompt in Gemini. So it's all about using these tools together in more meaningful, creative ways. You don't have to just stick with one tool. You can combine them and create a lot more effective planning and play ideas and more creative things too to better support your planning. Okay, so that first use case is really helpful for intentional teaching and supporting social emotional learning. But this next one, that's where we can really amplify a child's voice. So I like to call this one from child's art to published author, not very creative, but it is the ultimate form of ethical co-creation because it directly embraces our golden rule that I mentioned at the beginning by providing a positive, beneficial alternative to us using photos. So instead of using pictures of children, we are using the art and also the ideas expressed, so their voices coming from the children. When they tell us things about their artwork or whatever they've drawn or what they've built, even those sort of things, this is what you can incorporate into the storybook. So step one begins not at the computer but at the art table, the easel, outside, wherever you are, and say a child draws something that has completely captured their imagination. It could be a colourful monster, a wobbly rocket ship, a flower without face, whatever is bursting out of their mind and onto the paper. For this step, I'm actually using an artwork that my now 15-year-old drew back in the day. And of course, being a mum, I have held on to it. She's graciously letting me borrow it for this example. So if you are watching on screen, you can see that little drawing example there now. And I'll tell you what we're going to do with it. So step two is to capture their masterpiece digitally. That just simply means taking a clear, well-lit photo of it with your phone or tablet, or use your services scanner if they have one and prefer that option. But the key is to get a nice flat image of the artwork. I just used my phone for this one that I'm using as an example. I uploaded it to my Google Drive because working in Gemini, it's part of the Google ecosystem, makes it really easy to just connect to your files and upload from there. And then that brings me to step three, which is where we bring it into Gemini. Back in our Gemini chat window, you'll see an icon next to the prompt box. And if you hover over it, it just says add files. Sometimes they're little image ones as well, but this one is just a little cross that says add files. And this is the upload button. So all I did was click on that, and then you can select the photo or whatever it is you want to upload from your own computer files, or you can, as I did, upload it first to your Google Drive, and then it will give you the option. As you can see, it gives you an option. It says upload files, it says add from Drive, or don't worry about import code. So you can do either of those two things. Once an image is uploaded, then we're going to give Gemini the prompt in our little chat box that tells the AI to treat this drawing as the main character. Let's break it down if we use our 4-part formula. So I've used this prompt. So the picture, just explaining for those that are listening, it's a typical, I think she was 3 or 4 at the time. It's like the triangle for the girl's dress. She's standing there with long black hair. She's got flowers on either side of her. She was really into doing flowers at the time. I remember this. So it's just your basic stick figure picture of a girl in the middle, blue sky behind her, and she's got lollies and ice cream cones and flowers all around her. So what I've said in the prompt, this is Zoggy. She is a friendly and curious giant. Obviously you would use whatever the child is telling you. I'm just making this up. Create a story about Zoggy's first adventure exploring a garden where all the plants are made of lollipops and ice cream cones. The story should be exciting and full of wonder and suitable for a 4-year-old. So whatever age you're wanting there, make sure you do put the age in there. And then the end result It was definitely not a direct likeness. For those watching on video, you can see that from the original drawing that my daughter did, but it has picked out some elements like the dress color. She's clearly got black hair with little ribbons, and then it's used that to create a consistent character across all of the pages as well. So this is high above the world. It starts by saying, in a castle made of fluffy white clouds lived a friendly giant named Zoggy. Zoggy was very big, but she had an even bigger smile. So I'm not going to read it all out to you, but it's pretty well consistent through all the pages, the long dark hair, and I think she would actually connect with it. Hopefully you can see just how useful this is. I think it's really useful because we're not just creating a story for a child, we're creating a story directly from their imagination, and we're showing them in the most tangible way that their ideas and their art or their work are valuable and can be the starting point for some really incredible adventures and imagination. And this is what honoring a child's voice truly looks like. It's just one way to do it, but imagine sharing this with the family, because after you've read the story together with the child, you could use, say, something like the Learning Story Observation Writer smart form inside the membership to just quickly capture and write that entire process. You know, what happened from the start of drawing the picture through to collecting the voice and the child's story and then putting it into the storybook, and then how they reacted to that as well. So you could write about how the child showed creativity in their initial drawing, their language development as they described their character to you, and their incredible sense of pride, seeing their creation come to life. So it turns a fun 5-minute activity into a creative and meaningful piece of documentation. That example was all about amplifying a single child's creativity. But what about those valuable longer term projects where every single child contributes? The ones that, take over your room or your backyard for weeks at a time. So this next idea, which I call the group project Chronicler, is perfect for that. And this method is a really great way to document and celebrate a shared ongoing learning journey, especially in a group. And it helps children reflect on that process and makes their collective learning more visible to families in a really engaging, more easily understood story format for them. So step 1 is to identify a significant group project or interest. So a little bit like the one before where we were using an observation. This time I want you to think about something that's been bubbling away in your service. So maybe that's caring for the pets, like a stick insect or the guinea pigs, building a giant city out of recycled boxes. Or, for example, just for today, let's say you've all been working together to grow a small vegetable patch. Step 2 is our creative leap. We need to choose our narrator, if you like. The story won't be about the children directly, but about the subject of their project. So in this case, the characters in our story will be the vegetables themselves. And step 3 is to build our prompt using that same 4-part formula. So our character is going to be Sprout, a tiny tomato seedling. And the setting and goal is the kindergarten vegetable patch. And the story is going to be about Sprout's journey from seed to fruit. And our purpose with the story is to narrate the process and celebrate the children's role as caretakers of the land and looking after living things. And the tone should be a gentle, appreciative narrative suitable for all ages. So you could narrow that down as well to different age groups, of course, different environments. I've just chosen kindergarten for the sake of this example. Step 4. It's to do the fun part, which is to generate it inside Gemini, I should say. To get a better result, I would actually be a bit more detailed with your prompting here, especially when I did the example. I noticed that I wasn't happy with some of the images, so I would be a lot more detailed. But for the sake of this example, I'm keeping it brief. The prompt was simply write a story from the perspective of a tiny seedling named Sprout. Sprout lives in our kindergarten's vegetable patch, and the story should describe the journey of being planted by the children, watered every day, feeling the sun, and finally growing a big red tomato. The tone should be gentle and celebrate the children's role as caretakers. So that's all I put in, and then I got back this really lovely little illustrated story. It really centers the children's actions and their nurturing role without ever showing them or their faces. So it becomes a story basically about their impact and, what they're doing. I stretched and wiggled, and with a big push, I poked my head out of the soil. The world was so big and full of sunshine. I saw colorful flowers, busy bees, and the happy faces of the children looking down at me. So the children can really get involved with this story as well. And it goes through how the children are looking after the seedling and planting it in the big vegetable patch. It brings the children, their thoughts into it as well, the sun and lots of things there. There are some images there that I didn't feel quite hit the mark, so I probably, as I said, I would prompt it again. But it's all a learning curve. This is a new tool for me too, but it's a really effective yet playful tool for reflection with the children. You can read the story back to them and ask things like, do you remember when we planted the seeds? What did we do next? In a way, it's validating their effort and helps them understand the sequence of the entire project. And for families, it's a beautiful story, a narrative of this learning that shows the process they went through to reach this learning, not just the final product. It's also a fantastic piece of evidence for your documentation. You could take the text, pop it into the learning story, write a smart form in my membership, and in just a few clicks, you'd also have a beautifully written learning story that links this entire project to the early years learning framework or the My Time, Our Place outcomes, or whatever framework or standards in your part of the world that you have to follow. And it'll be ready to share with families or add even to your quality improvement planning. So from the big group project to the individual child, this next idea I've got to share with you is a really supportive way to use AI, another way to nurture a child's emotional well-being. And I call this one the transition tale. You can call it whatever you like, but transitions are just significant events for children. So starting at a new service, moving up to the big room from the toddler room or the baby room, heading off to primary school, these can all come with a lot of big feelings. And a personalized story can be a really effective and gentle way to help them process and prepare for that change in a positive way. It's a bit like the social stories as well. So here's how you can do that step by step. Step one is going to be to identify that transition. And this is a very intentional strategy you'll use when you know that a child is facing a big change and might need some extra reassurance. For example, today, let's just focus on a preschooler getting ready to start big school because that's quite an easy example to do. So step two is to gather a few small personal details that are going to make the story resonate with the child. Let's say we have a child, for this example, named Leo, and we know his new school's color is green. So these little details are what make the story feel like it's truly his. And step three is, of course, to build a prompt. So a great tip here is to make the main character an object, like a backpack or a lunchbox, because it makes the story quite soft and whimsical and something that children can relate to really easily. So our character is going to be Barney, a friendly green backpack. And the setting and goal is that Barney is excited to go with Leo on his first day of school. The purpose we have here is to frame the new experience as a positive adventure, highlighting things like the big playground and going ahead and making new friends. And the tone should be warm, encouraging, and reassuring for a 4-year-old. Step 4 is to bring it to life in Gemini in our Storybook creator. So I put into the box, write a short positive story for a 4-year-old named Leo who is getting ready to start at big school. The story should feature a friendly green backpack named Barney as the main character. Barney's excited to meet the new teachers and play on the big playground. Again, you could make this more personal by adding additional detail and context, but this is just an example. So what I got back was a storybook called Barney the Backpack's Big Day, and the illustrations were really bright and friendly, and the focus is all on the adventure ahead. So a little boy named Leo peeked into the room and his eyes went wide. "Wow, it's you," Leo said, giving the backpack a gentle pat. Barney wiggled his straps. He was so excited he could have burst. So it goes through in that fashion. Dad's packing the bag. Next morning, Leo slipped his arms through Barney's straps and they get ready to go to school. And then they walk into the playground. So it takes through all of those little moments and it just really helps them connect. You can use their name if you wanted to, or something that's really familiar to them, like the backpack. And a story like this is really such a meaningful tool for supporting a child's sense of belonging and well-being, which we know is central to the early years learning framework and also the My Time, Our Place framework. And you can read it with the child in your service. It becomes a shared resource that helps build that bridge between their current, their familiar environment, and their new one that they'll be going into. And this strategy fits beautifully into your formal transition process. The idea is that it helps to ensure a smoother and more successful start to their school journey, and everyone knows who they are right from the beginning. So far, the examples I've shared have focused mainly on the early years, but this tool is just as valuable for our school-age children as well in outside school hours care. So for them, we could use the AI as a creative launchpad, something I like to call the what-if machine. Because with older children, our goal shifts from creating for them to creating with them in a much more collaborative way. So it's about providing a spark to ignite their own imaginations, especially to get past that moment of staring at a blank page and not knowing where to start. So a fun way to do this is by creating comic book starters. Let me walk you through it. Step 1 is a group brainstorm, and this is all about child-led inspiration. What are the children into right now? Is it superheroes, a space adventure, a spooky mystery? For this example, let's say the group decides that they want to create their own superhero comic. And step 2 is where you, the educator, become the helper. You'll help the children co-construct a prompt, guiding them to use our formula, but letting them drive the creative ideas. They decide the character. So in this example, we'll just say a superhero whose power is controlling plants. And then they create the setting and goal. So they're in a city park when a giant robot made of rubbish appears. And for the tone and details, you can help them add specific instructions using those really active verbs and things in a dynamic comic book style. Come up with something that means something to them. And the most important part, ended on a cliffhanger. So this is a really good one if they're struggling a little bit perhaps with writing or with comprehension. This makes it a little bit more fun. So step 3 is generating that creative spark with our prompt. I've gone ahead and put that prompt into my Gemini Storybook creator, and I've just said create the first 2 pages of a comic book about a superhero whose power is controlling plants. On the last panel, a giant robot made of rubbish appears in the city park. The style should be dynamic and end on a cliffhanger. I must say when I tried this one out, it didn't give me the comic book style that I was sort of aiming for, but it does have a superhero feel and a slight comic book, but I was hoping for the little squares, but perhaps it can't do that yet. I'd need to go back and forth with the prompting a little bit more, I think, to get something that's similar to our goal, but this is still a great starting point. So what I see in the book is we have our hero, the setting is established, and the giant robot does appear. Leo turns into a big plant thing himself, and it ends with the cliffhanger of the robot coming in. And it says things like, Flora lands on a hilltop. They've called the superhero Flora, which I don't know was the best one, but I get why they did it because of the plant theme. So it definitely needs some more effective prompting, but script is quite good, and the images, I can definitely see they're going with a superhero type feel. A bit hard to describe unless you're seeing it, but probably to school-age children, they wouldn't see it as good as probably what we would overlook, what younger children would like. And it does get a little bit inconsistent. But again, the idea is there, and it's just up to you to tweak and find other ways that you could prompt as well to get something that makes, even better for you. But you get the idea. Make sure if you're listening to this, you do take a look at the video on my YouTube channel, AI Empowered Educators, so you can see all these examples, because it really will give you a better idea of what to expect and why I say this one needed some better prompting, and you'll see what I mean. So now this is where the most important step happens. The AI's job is done. Now you can print these pages out, hand them over to the children, or share a link with them, and their mission is now to finish the story. So what happens next? What do the characters say? They can draw the next panels, write dialogue in the blank speech bubbles, and decide how their plant-powered hero saves the day. And this really is such a clever way to engage children with narrative structure, character development, and creative problem solving. It's not about the AI writing the story for them. It's about the AI providing that unique scaffolding to help them unleash their own storytelling skills. Sometimes we just need that extra little bit of support and something that really interests the children to want to get into it. And it's a brilliant blend of digital and traditional creative arts. So give it a go. It's the kind of project that's a fantastic addition to an outside school hours care program, also for school children, of course. AI empowered members, to make your planning even easier, you can go and use the OSHC program and practice linker smart form in the membership. You could just describe this comic book activity, and the tool will help you articulate how it connects to the learning outcomes from the My Time, Our Place framework, which is going to make your documentation both quicker but yet more meaningful as well. And there we have it. 5 distinct, creative, ethical ways to use this new Storybook feature. But that brings me to the next step. Creating the story is wonderful, but sharing it with the children and their families is where the connection really happens. So how do we actually do that? Gemini doesn't, unfortunately, have a simple download as a PDF button just yet. But don't worry, there's some very useful options that I've actually been experimenting with to see what you can do. And what I found was really good is you can simply click on the full screen button. So you will see that at the top of the screen here. For those of you listening, it's very easy. It looks the same. It looks like a little square, basically, and that will put your book to a full screen. Not entirely full screen, but it will enlarge it. And then you can just click on the pages to flick through, because it opens as that digital flip book that's ready for you to read to the children straight from your device or computer screen. So that's probably the easiest way, especially if you're with younger children. But you can also click on the listen button at the top right of the Storybook creation screen and listen as it is read for you. So that's an interesting one as well. You can actually choose if you want a higher pitched voice or a lower pitched voice, start from the beginning or listen in full screen. And although it is quite an American voice, it's still a pleasant voice to listen to. So I'm sure they'll have more options down the track. But for now, that's another option, and they can read it for you. You can use the share buttons at the top as well. and at top of screen if you have that, and choose your preferred social platform. So perhaps you could share it in your family Facebook group or something similar, and it gives anyone who has a link the way to open the story on their own browser screen. You can also just simply hit the print button, which is pretty self-explanatory. I'm sure I don't need to explain that, but I do want to give you a tip. Just make sure to set your preferred paper size, as it will go a default to the USA letter size. So if you want to print it out in A4 in Australian size, go that, or choose something smaller if you don't want to use a lot of ink. So many computers also have screen recording software built in, or you can use free online tools like Loom as well. And all you do is record your screen, open your Gemini story, and as you slowly scroll through the pages, you can read the story aloud, just as you would during group time. And when you stop the recording, you have your little video file, and this is perfect for sharing privately or with families as well. So children get to hear your familiar, reassuring voice. The child gets to re-experience the story you created together. And really, it's just a wonderful way to build that home service connection as well in those collaborations. And just like that, we've gone from a blank page to creating and sharing our very own AI-assisted storybooks. My hope is that you're going to leave today feeling inspired and confident to give this a try. It's a lot of fun, and you don't need to be expert in any way. To help you get started, I've got 2 small challenges for you. Your first challenge: try the from child's art to published author method this week, just once. Find one drawing, sit with the child who created it, and turn it into a story together. And your second challenge: identify one small transition or social situation that you're seeing in your room or within your group right now, and that would be useful for creating a simple transition tale or perhaps a social story to support it. So use the prompt formula I gave you, read it to the child or the small group, and just observe if it helps open up a conversation or perhaps ease a tricky moment. And I'll leave that prompt formula in the show notes for you, and also on the podcast episode resource page. So in this episode, I've used a fantastic AI tool, Gemini, to spark ideas. So you can get started with the free version. And if you're used to the Google ecosystem like I am, like using Google Docs and slides, etc., you will feel right at home. And it's really easy to connect to all of your files and images via that drive, the cloud, which saves a lot of time, trust me. When you're ready to embed these sort of strategies into your professional, your day-to-day practice, and when you want to connect these creative activities back to your planning cycle and documentation requirements in less time than it takes you now, that's where the AI Empowered Educators membership comes in, because I've designed it to be the complete ecosystem. You get the specialized assistants like Ellie EYLF and Lacey Leadership to help you brainstorm and align your ideas within the framework, and you get access to the full library of those AI smart forms like the Learning Story Writer that is going to save you hours on the follow-up paperwork. And it also means you don't need to be worried about what to write in your prompt, because I've done all of that for you in the background and made the process a lot easier for you. My little AI helpers in the background will get to work on all of the answers that you've given it to the questions that I provide, and then it will shoot you back in seconds that detailed documentation. You get a community of educators to share your journey with. We're all learning AI. No one's an expert yet, so you're not left behind, but you need to get onto this and start practicing and upskilling soon. If you found this episode valuable, the best way you can support this work and to continue me being able to share it with you for free is to share it yourself with a colleague or your team who you think would also find it useful. We want to help as many educators as we can, begin to use AI and make life easier. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button on the AI Empowered Educators channel. It's just brand new, and click the little bell so you don't miss our next episode. If you're listening on your favorite podcast app like Spotify or perhaps Apple Podcasts, a follow or review makes a huge difference, lets me know that someone's listening and enjoying what I'm sharing, and it also helps other educators find me and all of the AI time-saving strategies I share. To find out more and join the membership, head over to theempowerededucatoronline.com or check out the show notes, or I'll leave all the details for you. Thanks for joining me. Let's continue to explore this new age of AI in education together with confidence and creativity.